type's gotta have someone. I'm not the type's gotta be in love. I had a lot of people come and go, and plus anyway.
Hi everyone, today we're going to create a My Little Pony themed tutu dress. And we're going to use a crocheted top. We're going to use some shimmering purple tulle from a bolt, some lavender tulle from a bolt, and then we're going to use some shocking pink, and we're going to do the theme of, I think she's called Twilight Sparkle, and we're actually creating this as a gift for a 7-year-old. So we're going to go ahead and get this all cut up for you and get started. And this is going to be a learning experience for me too, because we're going to try to make the mane and really emulate the My Little Pony Twilight. Before I start cutting, the lavender is our primary color that we're going to use throughout, and we're going to make this 11 to 13 inches in length, between 3 to 5 inches in width. Now for the shimmering and the pink, the shocking pink, we're going to use double the length at the least, and we're going to widen it a little bit more than our lavender tulle to really give it definition. So let's get started. Alright, I have my lavender bolt pieces that we're going to cut into strips, and I cut 28 inches in length. And the reason why I did 28 inches is because, remember, we're going to fold it over, so it'll be half that length. But I'm also going to do the angled cut, so that's going to take a couple inches off as well. So ultimately, we'll have about 13 inches in length. And you're going to measure the length based on the person you're creating this for and how tall they are. Make sure that you put the folded side as closely together as you're rolling it up, because it's going to be double. So take it, cut it half the width that you will for the rest of the pieces, because it's folded over on you. So see, this looks like it's really thin, but now look at that. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then determine how wide you want your strips and cut the rest. Move all the other pieces out of the way. I'm going to use my rotary cutter. If you don't have a rotary cutter, that's quite all right. You can use your scissors. And I'm going to cut at an angle. And it leaves a nice angled cut for you, real sharp ends basically. I'm going to finish cutting these for you, and then we'll get started placing this, and then we'll go with the next steps for our little pony themed tutu dress. We're going to take our lavender pieces, and we are going to do 2 to 3 layers of the lavender. And this is going to be based on how much of the crochet top or band you're going to use. Okay? We're going to use quite a bit of it. So I'll probably do 3 layers of lavender, and then we'll start creating the tail. Doing the slip knot method. Bring your tails together. Put it through the crocheted hole. Widen it with your fingers. Bring your tails through and gently tug down. Take your piece of tulle, fold it over. Bring the tails as close together as possible, unless you're doing a staggered effect. If that's the case, where you place the tails together is entirely up to you, because you're trying to make a different kind of effect. You folded it over, squish that top part as much as possible. This makes it easier to go through the crocheted hole. Put it through the crocheted hole, widen Bring the tails through and gently tug down. And that's all you have to do. So I'll finish adding all of these, and then we'll get started on the parts that are more different than your normal tutu dress. Alright, I'm slightly angling my longer strips. I ended up changing the length that I originally intended for the tail. And what I did was, these are the lavender pieces for the body, is approximately 15 inches in length. Now what I'm doing instead, 46 inches, then I cut the angled cut, so 44. So the whole length is about, you're looking at 22 inches for the tail. So basically when you're making yours, all you have to do is, if you want to make sure that the tail really shows that it's longer, you know, and it emulates a tail, double the length. So what your length is unfolded before you double it over, use that length for your tail, and it'll show that it's longer and it looks more defined as the tail piece. I'm sorry guys, I'm having one of those tongue twisted days. Okay, so you can do it just like you normally would, but now I'm using the seam of the crocheted top to be my guide. So here's the seam, and then I'm taking the row of crocheted holes on each side of it, and I'm putting the shocking pink there, one layer on each side, and then we're going to go with the purple. Alright, take your tails together, you folded your tulle over, bring it together as closely as possible, twist that top part where you're squishing it, and this just makes it easier to go through the crocheted hole. You're taking it through your crocheted hole, widen that folded area with your fingers, keeping it squished so you can make a nice clean knot. Bring the tails through and gently tug down. And see how long that is? Let me see if I can get some of the lavender so you can see the difference. See, it's like halfway different. Not too much, but just enough to show that, hey, this is something different. Right? So I'm going to finish this line up and then this line of shocking pink, and then we'll move on to the purple, and then I'll show you what I mean so you can visualize it better with bringing the lavender up. Again, thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry that I'm so tongue-tied today. I'm just adding the shocking pink. I'm going to do a row on each side. And then, as you can see here, I'm taking where that seam is. Instead of trying to do a slip knot, it kind of makes it look bulky. I am taking it and I'm running it from one crocheted hole underneath the seam and having a piece on each side. It's going to run through one crocheted hole, go underneath the seam through the other crocheted hole on the opposite side. Now we're going to pull it and we're going to tie one knot. Now if you're worried about it coming loose, you can go ahead and tie 2 knots. It's not going to do too much difference for you. But I've never had an instance where the tulle has fallen off. But to be on the safe side, if you want to make 2 knots, that's fine. But it makes it less bulky and more flowing. Now, after I've created this area, as you can see here, I'm adding the shimmering purple tulle outside of that on each side. Now, as thick as you want to make the tail is going to be based on what look you're going for, obviously, and as much room as you're going to need, because you don't want it to be too overpowering. But if you'll notice, it's almost like creating a bustle effect, except you're kind of narrowing it where it flows down to emulate the tail effect. I'm going to finish this up and we'll go from there. Alright, so here's what we did. We used the seam as a guide to create the tail, and we did the shocking pink first, and now the shocking pink's on there, and now we're going to put the shimmering purple on each side. And what I'm trying to show you now is this is one side already done as far as the first row. So each side has one row, and now I'm just doing the slip knot method, and you're going to add as many rows as you think that you need in order to make it look like the tail effect. But other than that, the sky is the limit to possibilities in creating a My Little Pony themed tutu, whether it be skirt or dress. Now, I will say this, when you're working with the skirt option, you're gonna want to add a little bit less tulle because it gets heavier and heavier, obviously, as you add more and more tulle. Okay, but you see this, it's about 6 inches longer than the primary lavender tulle that we're using throughout. So it's got a great effect to it. It's just turning out amazing. I love it. I honestly do. So I'm so glad I got to share this with y'all. And I think the little girl is going to be really happy with this. Now, if you look where the tail is, if you look, you can go up higher. And you can kind of make that mane area. I think I made the mistake of saying mane earlier. But you can make it with shorter pieces of tulle and then have it flow into the tail area. But like I said, it's going to be based on how far you want to go with this. Another thing, if you're going to make the mane part, you can always kind of make it spiky a little bit, just so it looks like the wind is blowing. You know, again, endless possibilities. It's all up to your creativity and imagination, which I know is boundless. I'm going to finish up this tulle placement and we'll go from there. There are several different ways that you can create straps or sleeves for your tutu dress. You can make the poof sleeves if you want. You can use the 1.5 inch ribbon or wider, and you can create some extra bling to it by adding rhinestone mesh, or you can use the leftover tulle that you have. Now we're going to use this shimmering purple, and we're going to put that around the nape, and then we're going to create a shocking pink bow to be the center. There's some great tutorials on how to make the flowers out of the tulle, but as you see here, all I'm doing is going around and around with a couple of strips of the tulle that I've already cut. I'm going to take a needle and thread, and I'm going to run it through that area that I wrapped, and then I'm going to tie a knot, and then I'm going to go in and out a few more times, just like you're doing a button. I'm going to take it off my hand, and then I'm going to take that excess thread and I'm going to wrap it around and make it tighter. And then I'm going to, of course, again, make the knot to make sure it stays secure. And see, now it looks like a bow. You can add an embellishment to the center, but I would first go ahead and see where you want to place it on the tutu. You can place it on the dress part, you can place it on the top part, where we're going to put it on the nape at that center spot, and then we're going to add a little embellishment here with a dab of hot glue. And that's all you have to do. I'm using the lavender 1.5 inch ribbon for the strap, and I don't have the little girl's exact measurements, so I'm just going to leave it flowing in the back. Since you're leaving this flowing in the back, make sure that you add a little extra length to it, so that way it gives that flowing effect. Now for the front part, you're just going to make a little flap as you put it through the crocheted hole, and make sure that that flap's on the inside. I've made the mistake of having it on the outside numerous times, and I'm like, oh crap. So avoid that. Take a line of hot glue. Remember, again, you can always add more, but this will allow you to position it better. Press firmly, and that's all there is to it. Now you can add an embellishment to each side that you create with the straps, or you can leave it as is. Now if you find that your glue looks clumpy, take your craft iron and rub it gently across that area, and it'll flatten out that clumpy part created from the glue. I'm going to show you the pictures, and I wanted to thank all of you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Truly appreciate all of your support, and I hope that this tutorial, though long-winded, gives you some ideas for your next creative project for My Little Pony. And remember, anything you create is going to be fantastic. Why? Because you took the time to create it. From my family to yours, have a blessed day.
I'm not the type's gotta have someone. I'm not the type's gotta be in love. I had a lot of people come and go, and plus anyway, I'm used to being solo. But it was good when you came to me.